Myself as much time as I may consume.
Someone's recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today in very strong support of H.R. 4545, the Financial Institutions Examination Fairness Reform Act. It is a strongly bipartisan bill, having come out of our committee by a vote of 50 to 10. It is authored by the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Tipton, who serves as the vice chairman of our subcommittee on oversight and investigations, and is indeed one of the leaders in the House in bringing regulatory relief to our community financial institutions. I want to thank him for his leadership on this very, very important issue. H.R. 4545 creates transparency and accountability among regulators by improving the timeliness of examinations while also creating a new, more independent examination appeals process. Madam Speaker, this is about, again, transparency. It is about due process. The Office of Independent Examination Review, created under this bill, will ensure accountability and fairness for financial institutions during their supervisory examinations. It does so by providing the right for these institutions to obtain an independent review of a material supervisory determination contained in a final examination report. The creation of this independent review process is particularly important for our nation's community banks and credit unions, who will now be able to appeal their examinations decisions without fear of reprisal from their regulator. By reforming the process for examining financial institutions to ensure it is fair and consistent, Congress will indeed enhance the safety and soundness of the financial system overall, while ensuring Main Street businesses can access the liquidity and capital resources they need to grow and create jobs. Again, Madam Speaker, this is why this is so important. Ultimately, this is about ensuring a free flow of credit to Main Street businesses and families. Many of our community financial institutions have felt a very, very heavy hand of burdensome federal regulations that were intended, or so we were told, for the largest and most complex institutions. And regulators, unfortunately, seem to ignore congressional directive to and apply each one of these standards to our smallest institutions. Thus, yesterday, Madam Speaker, we voted on the Taylor Act, also authored by the gentleman from Colorado, that would also help ensure these regulations are tailored to the size and complexity of the institution. But without having the due process and fairness of this exam review, the result has been catastrophic. This regulatory burden, of which this is part, has been resulting in the closing or merger of one community bank or credit union a day on average. And again, they are not being lost to natural causes. Our community financial institutions serve as the backbone of our American economy, and we simply cannot afford to lose them. As chairman of the Financial Services Committee in my 6th year, my colleagues on both sides of the aisle are all too familiar with this problem. I hear from credit unions and community banks every day. I heard from West Community Credit Union in Missouri who wrote, quote, "This one-size-fits-all approach is simple-minded and has real consequences. We are beginning to make changes that will negatively impact our ability to continue to serve members in meeting their home equity lending needs." And in fact, Madam Speaker, we know that a number of banks and credit unions have had to leave mortgage lending because of the regulatory burden. And then there's our City Credit Union in Wisconsin who said, quote, "Small credit unions are dropping every day. Unless we get immediate relief, there won't be any left." That would be tragic for our members and the very fabric of our country. Please help us, and help us right now. I have good news. Help is on the way if we can get a good, solid vote this afternoon. The CEO of Commonwealth National Bank in Tennessee wrote, quote, "The fact remains that there are fewer community banks today than there were several years ago, a trend that will continue until rational changes, for example, the ones we're speaking of today, Madam Speaker, are made that will provide some relief to America's hometown banks." Again, we are hearing this plea every single day. And so there is good reason why H.R. 4545 was reported by this committee with a strong bipartisan vote, 50-10, including a majority support of the Democrats on the committee. Again, the bill is strongly bipartisan, it is practical, it is necessary. H.R. 4545 will allow financial institutions, again, to have supervisory determinations reviewed by a newly established independent examination review board. This will allow for uniformity among regulatory agencies, again, while making the overall exam process more fair and more efficient. The bill does not prevent a regulatory agency from conducting examinations or imposing restrictions on financial exams, but again, it will restore fairness, due process, and accountability for the sake of our community banks and credit unions, and more importantly, for the sake of those who still have the American dream of either buying their own home, starting their own business, sending that first kid to college. It is imperative that we enact H.R. 4545, and I reserve the balance.